Hey Mambo, Mambo Italiano. Hey Mambo, don't you go a staring at my fettuccine Primavera. You know what I'm saying? Welcome everybody. How are you today? It's Thursday. We're cooking together. I'm super pumped and psyched. It's Mother's Day coming up this Sunday. One of my least favorite holidays of the year, and not because I'm anti-mom. I am so pro-mom, it's absurd. I had a mom. My son has a mom. Come on, I love moms. But here's the deal. There's so many people that inside have a hard time reconciling with this stuff. It's National Mental Health Awareness Month, and I have struggled with this holiday and Father's Day for a long time. These manufactured holidays. Same reason I struggle with Cinco de Mayo. But at the end of the day, I believe we should honor and love the people in our families who are making a difference. So if you celebrate Mother's Day, make this dish. If you just want to serve this Saturday night to the people that you love, go ahead and do it. Because I think there's no better time of year to make this than right now in America. Fettuccine Primavera is not an authentic Italian dish. Many people credit Sirio Macchione at Le Cirque for actually creating a version of this dish, which was fettuccine in a creamy sauce with lots of cheese and ribbons of vegetables. Over the years, people have said, well, cheese and pasta is a great way to get kids to eat vegetables. I just think it's such a fun thing to do at this time of the year, regardless of what your inspiration is. But mine is simply, I'm selfish. This is actually what I want to eat right now, today, because these things are just popping out of the ground right and left. It's so beautiful here in Minnesota. I hope it's beautiful where you are. Anyway, welcome to AZ Cooks Instagram Live edition. Thank you to our good folks at Shun Cutlery and at Flor de Caña, the rum people. We love them. We love our sponsors. You know, this is a great time, speaking of Shun, to once again check in with a couple of knife skills, because there are machines that will do this. You can put all of this through vegetable slicers, mandolins, fancy little spinner things that make zoodles and string. I have a machine over there made by a Japanese mandolin company where you put this on the machine and you crank a little handle and turn this whole thing into any shape of ribbon that I want. It's been on the shelf there since the day that I bought it. I think I used it once 5 years ago. The point is that I most typically pick up a knife, and when you practice these knife skills on a zucchini when you're making fettuccine primavera, guess what? When you're making roast chicken, it's gonna make that experience better. When you're making beef stew, it's gonna make that experience better because you're gonna have better knife skills. So I would encourage you not to take shortcuts with machines. It is rare that I use a mandolin in my house, rare. So much so that I probably don't even need one. Fun to have, but not necessary. So let's get started with this because it's just super fun, and we're actually gonna do all the components for you ahead of time, except for the crispy breadcrumbs, which we've done so many times. And I think we have a video on andrewzimmern.com of me making my lemony garlic breadcrumbs to top a different pasta with. I use them on everything. These lemony garlic breadcrumbs are the bomb. Great for texture, wonderful on. I'd rather have those on a salad than croutons. They're just insane. So the first thing that I'm going to do is show you my spinach pesto. Now, why am I putting a spinach pesto in this? Because I like to include spinach, but I have lots of other greens that are just going to wilt in the sauce at the last minute. You know, I have watercress and young arugula and pea-tip shoots and all these different herbs and the leaves from the ramps. But in my sauce, I don't use cream. I just use olive oil and the cheese and the pasta water, sort of like a cacio e pepe, right? I just use those elements to emulsify around the vegetables and noodles, because what I didn't like about this dish in so many different guises is that the introduction of cream and butter into this dish makes it heavy. And in the month of, what are we? Are we in May yet? In the month of May, the last thing that I want, I've been eating cream and butter all fucking winter. I love cream and butter. I mean, you are what you eat, which means I'm 35% dairy. But now is not the time. Now is when I want salads and olive oil and vinegars and vegetable purees. So I like to put this green element to help thicken the sauce, and the nuts in here do that. Now, a lot of people make their pestos with pine nuts. I do because I love a toasted pine nut. These are toasted pumpkin seeds. Like many of you, I was doing a lot of stuff a few hours ago, and I set the pine nuts into the oven and promptly got distracted talking to 75 people and doing 135 things. And in an effort to be all things to all people and over-accomplish on Thursday, I made the mistake that I'm always telling you people not to make, which is pay attention to your food. Spend time. It's a spiritual experience. Just focus on your cooking. I was not doing it, and I burnt my pine nuts. So I should have learned. I should take my own advice more often. A little bit of garlic. Pecorino Romano. We're going to use 2 cheeses today. The first one is grated Pecorino Romano. This is a sheep's milk cheese traditionally. There are versions that are made with cow's milk. There are versions that are made with goat's milk. But this Pecorino Romano is a sheep's milk cheese, saltier than Parm, aged about a year less. And I look for the brand, the traditional Roman brand with the black paint on the side. That is a really good imported one. The other ones are just a little too salty, but I love them for pestos for that reason. I have some chopped spinach. We blanched it, we chopped it. I squeezed it out in a towel until it's really, really dry. I'm gonna put that in here. So I have my nuts, I have my cheese, I have my garlic, I have my spinach. I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of olive oil. And I'm going to put this in this miniature Cuisinart. It's not a mini prep, but this is last year's model. I got it for like $69 on Amazon. You can find, this is a great size. I think it's a 12 cup. I have the big fancy food processor. We have one here. I rarely use it unless I'm cooking for a big group and mixing something really big. Same thing with my one at home. I use this size more than anything else because usually what I'm processing is just a few cups. And all I'm going to do is pulse this a few times and then let it run. Now, I'm making pesto. I'm not making sauce, okay? So you can see it's running in the machine, so I don't need much more olive oil. That's like 3 more tablespoons, maybe 2, and it's just running a little more freely. Now, this batch makes more pesto than I will need for this recipe, which is fine. It freezes really well, but more importantly, when you're making food at home, and I don't need to taste it for seasoning because we're gonna have 100 different opportunities to season this dish. Well, actually, I am gonna taste it because the minute I say that, I'm habitually tasting everything, so why not this one? And I've never made it with the pumpkin before, the pumpkin seeds. But this pesto is so bright and so beautiful. Now you can add some basil leaves into this if you wanted to, right? But a spinach pesto or an arugula pesto or a watercress pesto or a ramp pesto is fantastic. Why did I taste such a big bite? There's a lot of cheese in here, and I love spinach. So when I taste this, I'm like, wow, this would be great inside stuffed chicken, inside a stuffed, pounded out cutlet of veal. It would be great put under the skin of a piece of poultry and roasted. wow, I mean, a million different ways to use that. So make that a part of your repertoire. Let's set that aside. Next thing, let's chop some herbs because we want to season this dish with some herbs. I have some fresh chives here. They're busting up out of the ground. Take a, move this. Take a wet piece of paper towel, put your ends there, snug it back, and roll this up. The reason is I will then be able to put this back into my glass if I don't chop all of it, but it holds my chives together, right? Now, I take this kind of stuff and just pull it, and I'm just gonna put that into the dish. This is where all my vegetables are gonna go that are gonna get cooked in this dish. And here, I am taking a nigiri. It is a blunt-nosed vegetable slicer from Shun. 6.5, 7 inches long, but that's its actual purpose, is chopping vegetables. So I just gather these together, and it's so much easier using my little trick. And I don't need a lot because I'm just making enough for Madeline and Vicky to take a picture of.
And to try.
And I'm going to stick those there in the corner, just some fresh chive. I'm going to take a little bit of parsley. And I don't want to annihilate the parsley. I want people to bite into pieces of parsley. So I'm going to put that there because we're going to add this at the last minute, those wonderful herbs. And I'm going to add this to my glass of water. You'll see why in a second. I'm going to take some tarragon, and I'm just going to pull the leaves off of it, pull the tips. I don't need a lot. I don't want heavy-duty licorice flavor. I just want a little bit of light licorice or anise flavor. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to snug that into my water. Get rid of this garbage here. I encourage people, have a bench knife around. It's so easy for dealing with food and clean up your area. I'm going to stick that in my glass with water. We're going to get rid of this stuff.
Can you use cilantro?
You can. Cilantro doesn't necessarily fit as well with some of these other players, especially the cheese and lemon. It's not that it's bad. If you love cilantro, by all means try it and make it. You might discover something that you like even better than this recipe. I've tried it with all the herbs, and I actually reserve cilantro for a lot of my other cooking where it makes a little more sense. So I have this filled with water. The best thing that you could possibly do, and I don't see that we have one, is to put a reusable bag or one of those plastic vegetable bags over the top and put this in the fridge. It's like flowers. They're just gonna last longer, and you can just pick off of them all the time. Fine herb and chives and tarragon and parsley are all fine herb, as opposed to oleaceous herbs like thyme and rosemary that come on heavier stems. Fine herb tend to die in the fridge. Put some fresh cuts on them, put them in a glass of water, put a piece of plastic over the top, I hope something reusable. You can even take one of those reusable plastic lids if you use that. You can take a paper bag if you like. You can take a damp paper towel. Anything to hold in the moisture. This feeds the roots. The other one prevents it from drying out in your refrigerator. It's a great tip. Next thing that we're going to do, a couple of fiddlehead ferns. We've trimmed those. A couple of snap peas. I love snap peas. We just went and got a whole bunch of veg at the market. tablespoons of English pea, my favorite. I ate an entire bowl of these right before we went on air. I'm absolutely in love with them. These to me are great for sauteing, but that's just too big to throw into pasta primavera. So I make a very long cut. Why do I make a very long cut? We are going to be doing fettuccine primavera, not rigatoni primavera. We're not sauteing mixed vegetables. We want this to match the shape of our pasta. So as many things as I can. I can't do it with the peas, but I can do it with all these other things. I want to go long and thin. Okay? So I'm just gonna slice these. I'm sure many of you didn't realize that these snap peas have a varietal of pea inside of them. And if you're cutting them in half like that, you're doing the right thing. Just hold them down and come down the length of the vegetable.
Someone says that you would be a good politician.
Thank you very much. I hope to run for office some days when I'm done with my other day jobs. This is a santoku. It is also ideal for vegetable prep. Both of these are the knives that I reach for when I'm doing vegetable prep. It does not mean that I don't reach. Where was it? I just had it here. It does not mean that I don't reach for one of my paring knives. Or maybe saying a little longer that chefs refer to as a petty knife. It's just that I'm used to holding a bigger knife in my hand, and if you notice, I choked up. I was holding it here when I sliced my vegetables. Some people are comfortable putting a finger on a small paring knife, but I use this for paring work, for cutting things away, where I need a small little blade.
Do you sharpen your own knives?
I do sharpen my own knife, and this is, yes, they sponsor this show. But Shun is such an amazing knife company. They have many different series of knives, all at different price points, but they have sharpening equipment that comes with some of the best instructions. I have a Shun block that holds my stone that has two different grits on it, one coarse, one fine, and it holds my sharpening steel, which is this thing, and it sits in a little drawer in my house. Next time we're shooting, we'll go through all my drawers. And I take it out, I soak it for a few hours in water, and I'll just stand there for like 3 hours and sharpen all my knives once a month. Then you've seen me do it here. If I'm cutting a lot of things, the vegetables and the board will dull out the knife. There's acids in the vegetables. Every time I smack it on here, even microscopically, I can't talk to that, making this knife duller. So a few passes on the steel is really, really, really worthwhile.
What's the name of the knives again?
This is a santoku. It has a bird's beak shape to it. There's some that are slightly different shape, but in general, this shape is a santoku. And this one that has the blunt nose is an akiri.
Which one do you use to chop carrots?
Well, I'm about to do that right now, so we'll see. Either one. I peel my carrot. I use these for stock. I'm going to save that. Now, a lot of people are really into this whole zoodle thing, right? Doing this with zucchini and vegetables where you actually make ribbons using your vegetable peeler, right? That's great. You can go ahead and do that. You can also I'm just going slow, and I'm just pulling through here, and I'm slicing, but also holding my knife and just making thin slices. And when I get like the depth that I want, I actually anchor my knife on my board and just pull the vegetable through. Now there, I snapped off the end. Of course, the one I was trying to show you worked the least. But I am using my board so I don't cut myself, and I put thin slices that are gonna take about, I don't know, 30 seconds to cook, as opposed to no time to cook. So many of you are saying, well, why would you do that? What's the point? Well, I actually want those carrots to be thin, but I want them to stay in contact with the cooking surface and the sauce and absorb some of that cheese and pasta water and garlic and lemon, all the other things that are going to be in there. It's very, very, very important to me. Asparagus. Cut the tips off, and I place those over here. They're going to take a little while longer to cook, so they go over with those fiddleheads, right? There's a natural break point on asparagus. Everything in this hand is tough and fibrous and can go into pestos or to flavor soups. Everything in the right hand, the bigger piece towards the tip, is tender. It snaps at the place where it ceases to be woody. White asparagus is more woody than green asparagus because it's grown out of sunlight. I do the same thing, except asparagus is so quick to cook. It's way more tender. I actually just slice these into thirds, and I'm just gonna let them wilt in that sauce. And what I have found, this one's a little wider, so maybe I'll get 4 cuts out of it. I don't know, this is like a 1/16 of an inch. I'm just drawing my knife through it. Nice and safe, put the flat side down. I don't want it to roll away from me. And I actually got 5 cuts out of that one, but all the same thicknesses. Actually, this one is a little thick. I'm just making some lengthwise cuts so that I wind up with pieces that are the same thickness, even if they are different widths. They're just going to wind up being fettuccine shaped, and they're going to be beautiful in this dish. Zucchini. Same thing. Could spin it, I could do all kinds of things with it. I don't want to slice thin circles. It's not going to twirl up on your fork when you're eating your fettuccine. So what I want to do is I want to create long, thin slices about, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch. And then long, thin slices. Just take your time. There's so much starch on this one, it's actually sticking to my knife. Don't let that bother you. Just switch to a different method. You notice instead of drawing my knife through, I'm cutting and going straight down and just holding on to it because these are kind of starchy. And now I have these long, thin ribbons of zucchini that are going to match the shape. End of the leek, top of the leek. Those are going to be stock. The leek is already cut for me on one side, right? Then flip it over. You gotta flip your leek over once you're worked through a little bit, because it's gonna start to curl and you're gonna run the risk of cutting yourself. This is my allium component, and they turn very sweet when they're cooked, so I'm just gonna stick that over there. Ramps. The leaves, kind of just so we have the same sort of length on them as everything else. If you want to use the bulb, some people pickle these. Some people save them for sauteing with potatoes because they are sort of a cross between onion and garlic. We washed and peeled these. Throw away those dirty roots and stems. I keep a jar with sugar and vinegar, quick pickle, refrigerator pickle, in my refrigerator all season long, and I just keep throwing my ramp bulbs in there. And some have only been in there a couple days, some have been in there a couple weeks, but at the end of ramp season, I'll have a stuffed quart of them because I love them pickled. So here's the big magic. When everyone always likes to use the food slicer for radishes and turnips and other things like that, and you get those thin rings. I don't do that. I actually cut for this dish, will cut a radish. I love the red color. And I will do the same thing that I did with the zucchini, except they're much easier to cut. And these little red, right? You can't make them any bigger than the radish is, right? These are going to be a colorful and flavorful, acidic, peppery pop of flavor. And they get sweet when they are cooked. Put those with the peas. They cook so quickly. Pea tips, just make sure you separate them so they don't wind up in one gloppy mess. Some wild watercress. I'm gonna put that.
Can you do this dish with whatever vegetables you have in here?
I do this dish, I don't buy anything special for it. The nice thing for us right now is that if you shop at a co-op or a farm market, all this stuff is what's popping out of the ground right now. Your zucchini might be smaller, but the watercress, the fiddleheads, the peas, the pea shoots, ramps, radish, asparagus, spinach. That's what's coming out of the ground right now, wherever you live. All right, so take a couple bundles of the fettuccine, rapidly boiling salted water. The most important move when you put any pasta into the water is just to give it a gentle stir. I learned that a long time ago. It just loosens the pasta. It gives the pan that 5 seconds it needs to come back to a boil. Nothing sticks. And especially with dry pasta, it allows it to not be clumpy. And you know what? I'm gonna throw another one in there. Delicious. All right, let's put this over on the other side. Turn the temperature up on our saute pan.
How much salt do you add into the water?
Until the water that I'm cooking the pasta in tastes like seawater. And yes, I taste it. Salt, garlic, chili flake. Not a lot, just a pinch. I just wanted to have some heat to it. Just break up. I did that garlic on a microplane because it's Mother's Day. I'm gonna kiss my mom so long on the way out the door. I don't wanna offend her sensibilities. Lemon zest. Really, really lovely when it cooks in the olive oil with that garlic. And then just move it off heat. I don't want to burn my garlic. I don't want to burn my lemon. I don't want to burn my chili flake. I can smell them all in here, right? Check your pasta. Well, it still has a couple minutes. What's going to stop those from burning? let's add some of our veg that take a little while to cook. Just picking out my asparagus tips and my fiddleheads.
Someone's wondering why you added salt into the oil.
It helps to diffuse it. I have salt in there, and rather than sprinkling it on the pasta and having it stick, and I also have the cheese, I just, out of habit, just add a little bit of salt to that. And you know what? I'm gonna add these, and I'm gonna stick those on top. Let them start to steam. I want their liquid to start to go down into the dish. I'm going to save all of my leafy stuff. So I'll take my stems from that. I have all of my leafy stuff here, my herbs, my peas, all this stuff could go in with 30 seconds to go. And the minute that this is starting to approach being done, my pasta water. Pasta water, when my friends are in my kitchen and they see me do that and then they taste it, they're like, oh, that's what chefs do. Yeah, that's what chefs do. We actually are going to use that pasta water that has starch and salt in it to help emulsify our dish, but also help to cook, in this case, our vegetables. So we put a very light sear on them in that hot oil. And now this is why I don't use the peeler to do the carrots, because the carrots would already be overcooked. Whereas if I snake one of my sliced pieces out, it's just starting to get soft. I'm gonna stick that down in there. My pasta is finished.
Could you add fresh lemon juice into this dish?
You know, I love lemon juice in pasta dishes. We actually have a couple different recipes on our site. We have a lemon pasta that's one of the most downloaded recipes on our site, on Food and Wine's site. They also carry it. I just want to make sure I get all of my pasta out of there. That is it's a lemon pasta from the Amalfi Coast where they grow these incredible lemons, and they are so just insanely delicious that they use them in everything. And the sauce is actually a lemon sauce for the pasta. And so I started experimenting. It's like, wow, if I like that, there's our cress, some of our leaves, some of our pea shoots, some of our radish, some of our peas, our mixed herbs. And I want to make sure I get all those chives and goodies in there.
Can you add a splash of white wine?
You sure can. The wine is so acidic, and the lemon juice is so acidic. I really want you to taste the vegetables and herbs here. And I should point out, remember all that water we put in there? Look at how little is left. About as much olive oil as we started with, which means those vegetables have that in there. I'm just going to give this a toss. You want to make sure to be cooking your pasta in your sauce. I want the cheese to emulsify in there. Just going to add a little bit more of that pasta water. I was thinking about this all night last night. Actually, I made cacio e pepe last night because of that. That cheese. I'm going to turn this off. That cheese is actually emulsified into the sauce and gone into all those nooks and crannies where the vegetables are. The lemon, everything has gone into those nooks and crannies where the vegetables are. Now, you can take a giant tweezer. No. You can take a giant meat fork if you like. Some people are really into doing that. I can't find my cardinal sin. You can take a giant meat fork and start to build this really incredible thing in a restaurant, but that's not how I serve it in my home. In my home, I typically just take a portion of noodles and spin them on my tongs, put them into the bowl, give them another spin just to center the pasta. I'm not trying to build a tower. I just want to center it, right? And then I make sure, by the way, the sauce is in all these vegetables. This dish, this version that I just made you, is about 50% vegetable. If I didn't have my head on today, I would forget that too. I burnt the pine nuts. I forgot my fabulous pesto, which I'm supposed to add with my herbs. No big deal. Let's try plating that one more time. Thank God we're not live. How embarrassing. Again, take your pasta, put it in the bowl, and just give it a twirl so that it sits up a little bit, so that when you add your next scoop of the vegetable, you're actually going, and I want to make sure you get a little bit of everything. And I want something attractive on the top there, even though I'm just going to put a little extra cheese. Not a lot. I just want you to bite into chunks of uncooked Parmesan. And then the crunchy texture there of the breadcrumbs. Let me grab another bowl and I'll try this with you. There is nothing easier than this dish. We had one brilliant question today, and that brilliant question was, can I use any vegetables in my cupboard to make this? And the answer is a resounding yes. Do I go out of my way at the vegetable store to keep the bounty of spring in my home? Of course I do. Get a fiddlehead on there. Get a fiddlehead down there. Of course I do. But I'll do this with carrot and celery and zucchini. And it's just as beautiful. That right there, my friends, is what spring is all about. Don't forget about your pesto, please. Questions, comments, criticisms? Support, deny, refute? What do you got?
People are asking about your shows. They miss you on TV. Where can they find you?
Oh my gosh. We get that question all the time. Go to Discovery Plus, throw in your, whatever it is, your $4 a month. Not only do you get all of my shows, every show I've ever made, except for What's Eating America, which is an MSNBC show, but every show I've ever made has been for either Food Network or Travel Channel or Cooking Channel. So they've got everything. Like all 7 of my shows, and of course all 7,000 episodes of Bizarre Foods. It's all there. The Magnolia show that I'm doing, the new one, Family Dinner, is coming out. 6 more are dropping July 1st. And then I think they're dropping like 1 every week. And then the linear launches in January, and I'm sure they're gonna buy more of them. It's a big fat hit, so I should be thanking you people for watching it. And we have lots of other TV stuff that we're working on. It was, during COVID, a lot of stuff shut down. A lot of TV shut down. It was impossible to keep people safe. So I didn't make a lot of TV last year.
Sandwiches, do you cut them into triangles or down the middle? That's a controversial one.
Depends what kind of sandwich. I am a cross the waist guy. Grilled cheese and BLTs, triangles.
What other Mother's Day recipes do you recommend?
We have a whole bunch. What a great question. We have a whole bunch of them that are on our website. Obviously, desserts with strawberries and chocolate and things like that are great. The Vitello Tonato that's on my recipe is something that I may be making. Oh, wait, my mother passed away several years ago. Not a lot of sympathy for 59-year-old orphans. So I am going to be in a food truck driving around the Twin Cities cooking for random moms on the street. No, I will be, what will I be doing on Mother's Day? I will probably be cleaning out my garage and sending all the love and great hugs and great vibes that I could possibly muster to the mother of my son.
If you could cook for one celebrity, who would it be? Alive. Maybe someone that's dead.
Super easy question. I don't think there's not a lot of, I don't think I've made a secret of it, but I did talk about a secret last time. This question always comes up. There's two people that I want to cook for. In the name one person of all time, it's my grandmother. She taught me how to cook. She died when I was 18. She never saw what I amounted to. I was an irresponsible drug addict and alcoholic when she knew me, and it destroyed her, killed her heart. And she died before I sobered up at age 30. And she just worried about me. All I caused her was problems. Not when I was little, but the last 4 or 5 years of her life. At a time when I should have been more devoted to her, I was causing her problems. So I've always wanted to cook for her and spend some time so that I could properly, number one, make amends to her, but also she loved to eat more than anyone else I knew. And so I'd love to spend all day just cooking crazy, wild, and incredible food for her and just make it absolutely pinpoint perfect because I think she'd really dig it. In the celebrity crush element, if I had to cook for one person, it would be Sarah Silverman. Sarah K. Silverman, the comedian and actress. I don't think I've made many bones. I haven't really kept that. See, everyone has a celebrity crush. I have two, her and Brie Larson. Love them both. Brie, because her politics align with mine and she plays guitar. Sarah, because literally she seems like everything she does, I adore. Neither one of them know I exist. I know, it's hard.
If someone wanted to add meat to this dish, what would you recommend?
Probably really thin slices of shrimp or maybe some fresh crab meat. Anything else would overwhelm it. I mean, excuse me. I was just tasting this with the noodles. It is so perfectly balanced. And I'm not saying that because I made it. I'm saying it because just throwing all those vegetables together, a little bit of salt and a little bit of seasoning. We just have a hint of garlic, a hint of lemon, a little bit of chili, some herbs.
What's your
I will say,
oh, sorry.
no, it's fine, Vicky. Cooking this in the cheese and pasta water with a little bit of pesto that's raw, that just gets warmed up in there. This is like walking in a garden mouth first. It's as good a version of this dish as I can imagine.
In which country would you like to own a restaurant if you had to pick one?
This one.
Working.
I want to do something for my community. I believe in growing where I'm planted. Would I love to have an American restaurant in Paris where I flip burgers and make hot dogs and, serve really goofy American food like that? Sure.
Is this
Love to. But I'd rather own a little Jewish deli a mile away from my house so I could walk there with my dog in the warm weather.
Is this recipe on your website?
All the recipes are on our website, of course.